Welcome to the show. You have found Mason Street Retirement Insights, where every week we turn to our resident financial advisor, Sean Mason. He is the founder of Mason Street Wealth Management right here in Fresno. And he's been helping clients retire with confidence for years. He'd love to do the same for you. So he is here today to break down some of the biggest retirement topics for us. All right, as we get things started today, Sean, I want to talk about something that most of us understand, I think, pretty well, and that is food. Forbes.com has a series that features different financial advisors, and one said recently that they look at building a portfolio like making a chili. Who doesn't love chili? And you can't make chili without tomatoes and spices, and in some places without beans. I like beans in my chili. I'm not sure about you, but they kind of look at it in the same way that you can't build a portfolio without cash and bonds. So I wanted to talk to you about this, Sean. Talk to us about how you build your portfolio chili.
Well, I love chili and I love all different kinds. I don't know, what an interesting comparison. I have some friends, Jim and Carol, who are very passionate about their chili, and they do the whole cook-off competition thing all over the state.
I've hung out at their chili on the road?
They're taking their chili on the road. There's competitions all over the place. They come back with bronze and silver and gold periodically, so it's kind of fun. And I've got the opportunity to hang out at the house with them a few times while they're creating the masterpiece for the next competition. And it's really interesting, the similarities in the process of designing an investment portfolio. Depending on the category they're going to compete in, they custom make that batch specifically to reach a certain goal. But Jim is adamant that there's a foundation of key ingredients in every batch. And I kind of liken that to our core investment components. You know, every portfolio we design has a specific group of asset classes that make up the foundation of the portfolio. So stocks, bonds, cash, ETFs, of course. But as with each batch of chili, and where Carol's passion really shines, it's the spice arrangement that creates the individual flavor they're looking for.
Okay, I kind of love this. All right, so Jim's saying that the foundation is non-negotiable. He's getting the basics ready, and then you've got to start adding the spices, and that's where my girl Carol's coming in?
Yeah, and they do this together, so it's really interesting to watch them kind of interact. But the portfolio spices are actually the strategies we use to reach the individual goals. So high growth stocks versus high dividend stocks, long-term versus short-term bonds, risk mitigation techniques like structured notes, buffer and barrier strategies. Each portfolio is individually designed based on the needs of the family we're working with. So Jim said something very profound. Carol is exceptional at determining how much of each spice goes into the batch, not for the flavor today, but to create the flavor over time. I'll tell you, that is the essence of portfolio design. It's not the result of each day. It's the performance over months and years that's important, and that takes experience and knowledge accumulated over decades.
Yeah, so I'm curious then, Sean, how do you determine which type of portfolio is maybe best for a family?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And portfolio design, it changes as life changes, especially through the financial phases we go through. So during our working years, the priority of most of us is growth and accumulation. Maybe we're thinking about taxes along the way. But when we enter that transition, those years between working and retirement, maybe 5 to 10 years before retirement, and then going into retirement, the priorities change. Risk tolerance, both pragmatic and emotional, are going to be key. Rate of return needs. I'll ask families all the time, what rate of return do you need to serve your lifestyle? And they're just not sure. Tax strategy will affect the investment strategy. Dollars earmarked to fund long-term care will require specific investment design. Legacy desires will require a certain combination of tax and investment strategies. It all has to be considered to determine what type of portfolio is going to be the best fit for a family. And Casey, it takes advanced planning to get it right and then continued adjustments as life changes. So I want to invite our listeners to come into the office for a retirement planning assessment. Investments, your estate planning, tax strategies, All these elements you have to be considering. And for our first 5 callers, we're going to do this with no cost. And we're also going to include our portfolio x-ray. It's a great opportunity for you to get the insight into how your portfolio design is serving your needs now. So I encourage you to give us a call right now, 559-847-0039. Our team will find a convenient time for you to come into the office or meet by Zoom if that's more convenient.
That's right. 559-847-0039. This call that you're about to make is going to connect you with one of our Mason Street teammates who will then find you that next convenient spot on the calendar to chat directly with Sean for his introductory retirement planning assessment. If you have $500,000 or more saved for retirement, pick up the phone and give us a call now. 559-847-0039 or head online to masonstreetretirementinsights.com. Now, I really do love that chili analogy, Sean, because it kind of takes the mystery out of portfolio construction. Most people don't want a recipe full of all these different ingredients that they do not recognize. They just want something that feels right. They want something that's tried and true, something that holds up over time, kind of like your friend's chili that they take all over the state. But this got me thinking, even with the right ingredients, sometimes the market turns the heat way up on us. And that's what a lot of investors feel like they're dealing with right now. This year has not changed the story much in the stock market. There's still plenty of volatility and renewed concerns that the so-called AI bubble of stocks leading the way will indeed burst. And we've got some audio from TIAA CEO Thasunda Brown-Duckett talking about just this on CNBC. Let's take a listen.
I think the real question is not knowing if it's going to burst or boom. It's about making sure you'll be prepared for retirement. And I think the most important thing is first to make sure you stay invested. Make sure you're diversified. It's not about timing the market. It's about how much time you put in the market. And as we think about that diversification, how do we ensure that there's income within it? Income has to be the outcome. And how do we make sure that you can have that guaranteed income that you can depend on month after month, regardless of what that volatility may look like?
So when people hear the word diversification, Sean, I think they usually think stocks and bonds. So talk to us about a way to diversify retirement income and maybe what the benefits are.
Yeah, we're in some interesting times for sure, and she makes some really good points. But, everybody still has on their mind, and many are comparing these times to the dot-com bubble back in 2001. But I'll suggest that there are some major differences, and probably the biggest being monetization. So, those of us that remember back in 2000, we all believed the internet would change the world, and it did. But not soon enough to support the extreme investment that was going into it. They couldn't figure out how to make money with their developments. And so those valuations grew to extraordinary levels with no earnings being generated. Today we have the same expectations in that AI will change the world. The difference right now is it actually is. And right now it's generating a lot of revenue. So they've figured out how to monetize AI much faster than they did with the internet. And we should also point out that there are thousands of companies in every sector that are benefiting from AI. And so we're seeing investment opportunities beyond just those AI elites, still driven by the AI boom. So of course we have to be hyper-focused, but the risks are completely different this time around.
Well, and that's what really stood out to me in that clip, the idea that innovation doesn't automatically mean stability. So when the markets feel uncertain, diversification becomes more than a buzzword. So Sean, beyond stocks and bonds, how do you think about diversifying retirement income so that families are not relying on just one outcome going right for them?
Yeah, that's for real. And Thasunda makes some really good points. Staying invested is essential. Understanding the end goal is key. And for most people, income in retirement is the ultimate priority. And that looks different for each family, and it requires individual strategy. In case you brought up a great point, diversification is foundational, but not just in investment strategy, but also in tax and income strategies. There's certain risk with all three, and we want diversification to kind of mitigate those risks. Specifically with income, we all have a common goal, It's to get the most spendable dollars out of our resources as possible throughout our lifetime. And the strategies we use to accomplish that will be different for each of us. And they each come with different levels of risk. From one extreme, relying solely on the market, hoping it'll deliver the necessary rate of return, and then to the other extreme of buying an annuity to provide a lifetime guaranteed income. Most of us don't want to settle on one or the other. Usually it's a blending strategy that will be the best fit. And that diversification becomes an individual design for sure.
That is going to do it for us this week here on Mason Street Retirement Insights. As always, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week, same time, same place, with more great insight from Sean Mason, president of Mason Street Wealth Management. Take care.
Mason Street Wealth Management, MSWM, is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by MSWM on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Motivate Investments. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. Investment advisory services are offered through Motivate Investments, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. The information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Sean A. Mason, California, insurance license number 0B54860. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Motivate Investments. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. MSWM is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if MSWM is licensed in your state, please call 559-892-0002.